Hello and welcome to the Beyond Borders podcast. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We're going to be speaking with Nerissa Chaux of Filta. She's joining us here to tell us a bit about herself and a bit about her company. Thank you so much for joining us here on Beyond Borders.
Hey, Neil, what's up?
Hey.
I'm very excited to be here.
I'm glad that you're here.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tell us about yourself.
All right, everyone. I am Nerissa Chaux. I'm the co-founder at Filta. I'm sure most people have already clocked my accent, so I can definitely confirm I'm an Aussie. And just before I talk about Filta, just so you understand a bit about my background, my co-founder, Efren, and I actually founded another business in the global financial crisis in 2008. It was called Brown and Chase, and we basically scaled it to a national executive search firm. And we sold that business in 2017, which gave us the opportunity to launch Filta. And we've introduced, that executive search mentality across the regions that we now focus on internationally. Mm-hmm. Brown and Chase gave us basically an opportunity to help, the customers that we're already dealing with, introduce them to a solution, I guess, about how they could continue to grow. Mm-hmm. And that's how we got into employer of record.
So is that something that there was a huge demand? Was that like an accidental thing?
Well, that's a very good question. So what happened is we chose the Philippines. That was the first country. We lived and worked in Asia, so we understood Asian recruitment and, the way that all operates. Mm-hmm. So what happened was we were obviously recruiting for our own business, and then the Australian companies that we were recruiting for locally, they started with developers. We can't find good developers in Australia, or they want, 150K. Yeah. And this, remember, is 8 years ago. Okay. So salaries are still going higher and higher. So people were like, well, you know how to recruit. You recruit for us in Australia. Can you do the same in the Philippines? And that's kind of how it all started. And then, of course, they're like, how do I pay these people? And so we're like, yeah, we'll take care of it. So Filta was very organic to start off with, before we realized, wow, this is a business and this is so enjoyable, because hiring internationally, there's a lot of complexities and you're dealing with people. People in general are fun, but also understanding the laws in different countries is actually quite exciting to us.
You were saying that you understood Asian culture and work ethic. Was it difficult to transmit that understanding to potential clients?
I think the biggest thing is it starts with how people interview. Mm-hmm. So, Neil, you're American, right? Mm-hmm. So Americans and Australians and the Brits, we're fairly similar is when we go for interviews, we know that we have to sell ourselves, right? It's the first impression. But in Asian culture, it's very much being humble. So don't talk about yourself. Don't say, I did this, I achieved this. It's even subtle things like, we did this, we achieved this. And it can really be alarming, or it's just a different way. So you have to educate Western employers that, they are more humble, and you have to dig deeper to get them to talk about how fabulous they really are. So I think it's nuances like that, like from an interview perspective. Mm-hmm. And then I think culturally, in our cultures, in the West, it's very much, we're highly accountable, we're very confident, we're assertive. Neil, if I don't know something, I'd come and ask you, you would ask me. But in Asian cultures, and all Asian cultures, there are differences, but relatively speaking, it's disrespectful to question your manager or to ask your manager things. So how do you bring people with those different cultural nuances to thrive in your company, but also your local teams to best engage and get the best out of people? And I think that's where we're very, very good at, is particularly educating companies when they first start hiring internationally, is they want to make it work. And so how do you make it work quickly to ensure, consistent performance, but really high ROI quickly?
How do you talk to a client about that aspect, that aggressiveness doesn't necessarily equate to efficiency or work ethic?
I think it starts, first of all, it's kind of understanding their local HR employment practices, if that makes sense. So how do they qualify success? Is there what's the DNA linking their local teams? And then we actually do education to employers, and we do it for their local teams, from C-suite all the way down, to graduates, to really educate them about, great, you've hired someone in Colombia, you've hired someone in the Philippines. How do you engage them? How do you understand them? And how to bring them on the journey with you. But it's also your responsibility as a company you've got to meet halfway. So I always say the best thing, Neil, is education. And every company, regardless if it's enterprise or not, they want to make it work. And generally speaking, people come to us because they want to be educated. They want that advice. They want us to support them through their journey. They want to be able to message us 20 times going, this happened, how do I deal with this? Or this is my response, what's the best way? So I think it's really supporting and educating people on the journey. And that's why people come to us.
How many different services does Filta actually offer?
Oh, good question. The primary two is we provide employer of record and recruitment services for people-centric organizations. Yes.
What's the major takeaway for our listeners today? Why Filta as opposed to someone else who's romancing the same type of client as Filta?
Okay, I think the biggest thing is we are not an outsourcing company. We are not an offshoring firm. We are not a BPO. Filta is an employer of record. So basically, we focus on providing administrative and compliance support while leaving employee engagement and well-being in the company's hands. So if you're a business that likes the freedom to build and manage your remote team your way, we are for you. So our business model is to provide you maximum control through the entire process. Our job is to ensure employment compliance.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Hopefully, we'll get an opportunity to speak again as things progress there and come back and tell us how things are going.
Absolutely. Thank you, Neil. A little secret tip for your listeners. We are currently expanding into Vietnam.
Okay, great. And contact information, your website, and any emails or telephone numbers that folks can call and get more information about Filta.
Absolutely. So check us out at filtaglobal.com. Please connect with me via email at nerissa@filtaglobal.com or via my LinkedIn, Nerissa Chaux. I am the only Nerissa Chaux in the world, so you should be able to find me on LinkedIn.
And that's NERISSACHAUX, correct?
Beautiful. You've got it.
Great. Nerissa, thank you so much for your time this evening on the Beyond Borders podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Neil. Have a great evening.
You do the same. You've been listening to the Beyond Borders podcast. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Nerissa Chaux of Filta. Find out more about us at verticalinternetmedia.com. You can find out about our BPO services at outsourcingfit.com.